Greetings to my 1,225 subscribers, and of course you the future subscriber. Tonight we are tackling a topic that I think a lot of people have asked questions about it. Even myself, sometimes I wonder what is the perfect solution with regards to water. Do we add water? Don't you add water? Do you add a little bit of water? Do you proof it down to almost 40%? The other day I watched a video on water, and it was suggested that you might bring it below the 40%, up to 35% ABV to get the most out of your whiskey. Now I'm not so sure about that. I've added some water to quite a lot of the especially high ABV whiskies, and it just did not work for me. So I did a short little poll on my YouTube channel, and I asked my subscribers what do they think. And as of today, I already got 39 people that gave their opinion on it, and the poll questions were quite easy. If you have a 48% ABV whiskey, what do you do? Do you add water? Don't you add water? Do you add maybe 1 teaspoon on a standard 25 milliliters? Or would you add maybe 2 teaspoons, or you will proof it down to 40? Quite interesting. I was a little bit surprised when I saw the results. I will also add a screenshot, so it might change from making the video until after the edit. But the surprising thing, and I have it here in front of me, do not add water. We have 59% of the people will not add water. Now, I do also agree 49% is not excessively high. I might even do a little bit of a poll in the future to go towards the 58-60% ABV, and just to get a little bit of feedback on what people do. Or maybe after watching the video you can leave a comment to me and give me a little bit of a description on what percentage and how much water you would add to that specific percentage. We'll add a couple of drops. Now I think that's something that I also fall into that category. Either I don't add water because I love the high ABV, and I tend to take small sip, very small sips, and it is about the experience, and of course not to get drunk or to see how much I can consume. And in that category I have 21% says that they will add a couple of drops, and I think a dropper for me is actually the perfect solution. You can control the dropper, you can make sure that you taste it afterwards, another couple of drops. So quite a good solution. A dropper can be a wonderful addition, and I see the industry has also created quite a number of fancy little droppers that you can have. I do not have. I have a scientifically calibrated teaspoon that indicate 5 milliliters for me. The next category that I also ask is maybe 1 teaspoon of water on the 48 ABV, and 15% said they will add a teaspoon of water, and 5% of the people indicated that they will add at least 2 teaspoons of water. And of course, proofing down to 40% ABV or thereabouts, 0 people. So yeah, the video that I watched, I'm not convinced that they gave good advice on bringing it down to such a low level. For me, I think you are ruining such lovely notes that come out. Now I also did add a couple of whiskies that I poured maybe 15 minutes ago, high ABV stuff, and during this conversation we are going to talk about some of them. I'm going to try them without the water, I'm going to use my scientific calibrated teaspoon, add some water to it to see if it helps or hinders the whiskey. Now the first one that I'm going to try during the video, I will try not to do it too long. I will also look a little bit of the scientific side of it. What happens with the alcohol when you add water? Does it help it? Does it hinder it? So, and of course, I will also try to put a little bit of timestamps. Not sure how that's going to work because it can be a little bit complicated topic. I did spend the last almost 4 weeks doing some background investigation in it. Still not 100% convinced. I will bring out a fantastic message, but it's going to be a message about water and whiskey. So the first one, the Abelauer Abuna, this is batch number 58 and bottled at 61.1% ABV. Highland single malt Scotch whiskey matured in Spanish Oloroso cask. Now, that is something that the people that have been following me, this is one of the best whiskies that I have tasted in a long time, and this really pushed me into looking for that sweet sherry monster, especially a high ABV sherry monster. So that is the first one that I will discuss and add a little bit of water. The next one that I have on my list that I also did a review on all of these already, so if you want to go to my homepage and you will find all of them. It's an independent bottle. Looked, well, natural color, non-chill filtered. Can you imagine the color on this thing? It is absolutely a fantastic, lovely one. This is the Adelphi Selection single malt Scotch whiskey, bottled at 53.2% ABV, and it is from the Ben Ryan's 10-year-old whiskey, or Ben Rinnes. Well, I'm sure one of them is right, or one, maybe both of them are completely wrong. Lovely stuff. The next one that we will add a little bit of water to and see what the effect is going to be is the South African 18-year-old Baines. Oh, I love this one. 50.5% ABV. This is a special release, matured in Pedro Jimenez cask, of course. It is a 18-year-old single grain whiskey, so think more in the lines of a bourbon type of whiskey. So I did not really have a high ABV in any bourbons, so I picked this one to see what it does to that whiskey. And of course the last one that I have, you have to bring in a little bit of a peat monster, and in this case I picked the Talisker 8-year-old. This is a single malt, 8 years old, mature, natural cask strength, bottled at 59.7% ABV, and of course a little bit of a peated or smoky whiskey. So that is the lineup. So the whole idea behind this whiskey is to see what the effect is going to be for me. For me, this is quite a subjective topic. Everybody tastes different. Everybody has got a different tolerance. Some people like the heavy peated stuff, some people not so much. But for me, if I add a little bit of sweetness to that peated whiskey, then for me, my ideas change. Now, over the last 35 years that I've been drinking some of the different whiskies, and I must admit, most of them probably came from, I think, the last 7 years, ever since I moved to Belgium. The whole world of whiskey opened up, much more than that old blended, boring stuff that I had to endure in South Africa. Of course, the single malt whiskies was very difficult to find, and if you could find it, was quite expensive. So for me, I want to know what is the effect of water. Does it apply to all whiskies? I've had some comments already that people say it all depends on the whiskey. Now, they did not tell me exactly what they meant by it. For me, that's something that I would also like to explore. As a general note, for me, I tend to stick with the cask strength. I do not add water. Most of the time when I do add water, it will be for a review purposes only. Once I switch off the camera, I stick with no water added. In this video, I will also look at the background of water added. What is the effect of water? What does it release? How does it release it? A little bit of a scientific background. Well, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. Not for you, but for me, because it can be quite complicated. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of literature behind water and whiskey, and of course, giving you a lot of information. So for me, it's going to be a little bit of science, talking about the science, and then trying to mimic it in the whiskey itself to see if it makes a difference in the 4 whiskies that I brought, and to see what works for me and work not. Now, of course, when you talk about water, well, not all water are created equal. I live in Belgium. It is the hardest water that I've ever seen in my life. If you boil water in the kettle, every 2-3 weeks you have to take all the calcium out of it. It's thick with calcium. The bath water, everything starts running slower and slower. You have to get somebody out every 2 years to come clean the pipes. So very hard water. And for that reason, I just bought myself a filtration system just to take all that hardness out of the water, and I drink it like that. You can get tap water if you have good quality tap water. You can get bottled water if you want to be a little bit fancy. You can get sparkling water. I started drinking whiskey with sparkling water, and in South Africa we call it soda water. And ice, what about ice? It's the people that add ice to it. So there's a different type of water, and I'm sure different types of water will create different nuances, different aromas. Well, probably not an aroma, but maybe it will influence the taste as well. For this video, I am using nice clean filter water. It is not very cold. I tend to add my water at room temperature, not in the coming out of the fridge. Now, years ago, my uncle, he was a guy that loved to drink his brandy with tap water, and I always thought to myself, it is very strange. Why on earth put a little ice in it, make it a little colder? It's hot outside. But he was onto something. He also knows that tap water would bring out different flavors, different smells, different aromas. Now, I never knew that. Took me a while to realize that water can, in some instances, create something that's more flavorful. Now, the first question that I would like to address is what happens when you add water. Water can release the aroma in alcohol through a process called volatilization or evaporation. When water is added to alcohol, it can help to break down the alcohol molecules and increase the surface area of the liquid. This increased surface area allows volatile compounds, including the aromatic compounds, to escape through the liquid and into the air, making them more detectable to the olfactory system. In other words, up to the nose. In the case of alcohol, aromatic compounds are typically present in small amounts and can be trapped within the alcohol molecules. These compounds contribute to the aroma and overall sensory experience of the alcohol. By adding the water, the alcohol concentration decreases, which reduces the solvent effect of the alcohol on the aromatic compounds. This decrease insolvent effect, allows the volatile aromatic compounds to be more easily liberated from the liquid, increasing their volatility and facilitating their evaporation into the air. So in short, what I also take out from this is that add water, breaks the compounds, and of course releases more of the nice notes that is in that whiskey. Now that is where the balance is going to be. Add too much water, of course it can be a problem. For me, the first thing I get like a little dishwashing water. I get a little bit of that disappearing of that, all that lovely flavors. So for me, I'm always very careful. Some of the whiskies that I buy is quite expensive, and I definitely don't want to overwater it. For me, it kills everything. So the first whiskey that I'm going to add a little bit of water, of course it is the Abuna. Cheers. Now this one, also the bottle is almost half. The bottle is opened quite a long time ago, and it does change over time. So that's the first thing that I also note. But agitated, just a wee little bit of an agitation, you stick your nose in it and it definitely tells you it is high ABV. Be very careful. On the taste without the water, but it is so nice. It is definitely that sherry monster. I don't drink a lot of this one. I just don't want it to, well, I just don't want to finish the bottle. That definitely that Christmas cake, but the alcohol is so high that it completely, as soon as you put it in your mouth, it completely disappears. It just evaporates, while a small sip evaporates. I will never attempt a big sip on this one. It's just going to kill the taste buds. So I try to pour all of the whiskeys about the same level. So this is about 20-25 milliliters. And I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon to all of them after I've tasted. Remember the scientific calculator? I'm going to make a nice full spoon of water and try not to, and that will be it. Now it is not a lot of water, especially on this one. The Abuna, it's 61.1% ABV. So definitely going to be able to add quite a lot of water. So on the nose of 1 teaspoon. Now that volatility is maybe pushed down by 50%. It is a little bit more pleasant on the nose. Well, it's pleasant even with a little bit of an agitation. Without the water, no agitation, it is also quite pleasant. But that sweetness elevates a little bit for me. There's more toffee note. Definitely I can smell that alcohol still quite strong. It is a little bit more aromatic for me and a little bit more sweeter and a little bit more Christmas cake. So on this one, let me just try it without adding more water. Cheers. Definitely sweeter, more toffee notes, more caramel notes, a little bit more of that dried fruit note, a little bit of that sherry cask influence. And it is not such a punch in the face type of alcohol note. So I'm just going to add a little bit more on this one. First, it is 61. I'm just going to add an additional teaspoon of water. I need to be very careful. I don't want to ruin any whiskey. You can also see there's no Scottish mist appearing because it is not cold water. With 2 spoons of water, I can still smell that alcohol. So this one is definitely going to take quite a lot of water to bring it down. but it is now maybe 20% of down for me. Definitely not volatile on the nose, and a little bit of taste. Cheers. For me, that's perfect. I think I have reached the perfect level. Big fruity notes, big sherry notes, not kick in the face when it comes to that alcohol. That youthfulness is no longer there. That burning is still there, but it's now just a nice warm feeling. And it is not that shocking, whoa, that's a little bit too strong and it burns down the throat. Don't get that. So for me, at the 61, 2 teaspoons of water. So what is the major reason people add water? Well, the first thing is quite the obvious one. You need to proof it down a little bit. I think if you're a whiskey drinker that likes to drink on a daily basis, well, never a good idea. But you need to bring down the alcohol level, dilute it a little bit, bring it to a comfortable level for you. And again, this is where we are all different. Everybody has a different comfort level. Well, my whole life, now I'm from South Africa, we drink brandy and coke, and I was never the person that will pick up a brandy and coke and drink it and go, whoa, geez, how much did you put in there? This is too much for me. I had never that issue. I've never complained that they put too much brandy in my brandy and coke or in my rum and coke. The next reason, of course, flavor enhancement. Now, this is something that is also for each individual person. I can tell you that even in the one that I just did, there was definitely a flavor enhancement. We talked about adding water, the changes in the whiskey, that separation in some of the molecules, and that releases that aroma molecules from the alcohol, and it does smell nicer. Now, that is all up to you. That couple of drops will definitely make a difference. Not putting the alcohol level way down, but just 2-3 drops at a time, just to release some of the aromas. And of course, if it's room temperature, your alcohol is not very hot, that will also facilitate that release of that aromas. So number 2 for me, of course, it's to bring out a little bit of that aromas. Also flavors or flavor release. Adding a little bit of water will also change your taste of that whiskey, give you a little bit of a sweeter sometimes. I also found sometimes when I add a little bit of water, I bring down the tannin level of the water. So there's less tannins, a little less bitterness. Sometimes it brings up a little bit of that fruity flavors. It also brings out a little bit of that chocolate note and all the vanilla notes if you add a little bit of water. The next one is for me is a little bit of the esters. When you add a little bit of water to it, it brings out the compounds responsible for the fruity in the flavors, the floral flavors in the whiskey. Adding water can promote the release of esters, making the whiskey more aromatic and enhancing the fruitiness. It also reduces the harshness. Some whiskies, particularly young cask strength expressions, can be quite harsh and intense due to the high alcohol content. Adding water can help mellow out the harshness, making the whiskey smoother, more balanced on the palate. Another reason that we are adding water, of course, is the personal preference. Ultimately, the effect of water on whiskey can vary based on personal preferences, and we talked about that. It's something that you have to decide for yourself. Do you add water or not? And what is the reason do you add the water for? Leave that in a comment as well. Now the next one that I'm going to add a little bit of water to it and give my opinion on it is the Adelphi 53.2% ABV. So quite close to that 48% that we have in the Poles. Now I did pour it some time ago. And immediately the first thing that I note, it is not so volatile, not so punchy on the nose. And comparing that to the Abelauer Abuna, even with a little bit of an agitation, it's definitely not that strong, but I do get that little ethanol note. On the taste, cheers. Now on the taste, this is something that I will keep at that level. It is for me just perfect. There's not a lot of alcohol burn. There's a little bit of a heat, but it is not that ethanol-y, youthful, in your face type of burning sensation. Even with a little bit of a bigger sip, you're not going to get any of that bad notes. Well, for me anyway. I need to be very careful because everybody is different. Just one more sip. It is lovely stuff. Gift from my friend Anton. And I cherish it. I don't share it because this one is really nice. Now, again, I need to add some water. And in this one, I will also stick with a full teaspoon of water. I do not have a dropper. And I think this is going to be more than enough of 1 teaspoon of water. And immediately, the effect is there. It does bring out again the sweetness. More vanilla coming out. That richer, creamier toffee note that comes out. So quite pleasant as well. Now I would have kept it at bottle level. A little bit of an orange and a little bit of a dusty note, or maybe a little bit of an ashy note coming through. Now I know this one. If I add a little bit too much water to this one, it really doesn't like it. I don't like it. That ashy note just elevates every time if I add too much water, and I don't like it. It can, at this stage, with the agitation, it feels like it can add a little bit of water, and I'm sure a lot of you will maybe add some more water. Taste-wise, for me, it is just perfect the way it is. Just want to make sure. Cheers. It's lovely stuff. And the nice thing about this review, when I'm done with the video, I can sit back, relax, do the editing, and I can work my way through this 4 whiskeys. Don't tell my wife. Now, of course, the choice of water. I think that is important. And I'm sure some of the waters that is available is not going to have a huge influence on the water. Unless you live in a place where the water quality is very low. Water quality with a lot of chlorine in it. I've been to some places when you open up the tap water, you smell like a swimming pool. So there's water like that. For you guys, go buy yourself some bottled water. It doesn't help you have this expensive whiskey and you put crap water in it. So the options is there, the still water or spring water or mineral water. I tend to stay away from the mineral water. If I want to drink water, I always drink mineral water. If I want to dilute my whiskey, still water, bottled water. For me, brand doesn't matter. And of course, most of the time I just have my filtration system and I just use the normal tap water from Belgium, just removing some of that harshness of that calcium I take out, and it's perfect for me. I don't smell it and I don't taste the difference in the water. So just 2 more whiskeys to go. This is the Baines. Oh, my word. Now, this Baines, if you look at the color, it's Pedro Ximénez. This is cask number 0330 of 1900. Andy Watts is the distiller. It is 50.5% ABV. It is super sweet, my word. The first time that I tasted it, I thought to myself, is this Pedro Jimenez with whiskey added? It is a sweet monster. I can feel my blood sugar rising by just nosing it. Now, it is high, well, 50.8%, but I don't get any of that alcohol notes, which make this a dangerous one. Because there's no, wow, that's a little bit strong. Even if I do the agitation, there's nothing. It's just lovely, sweet Pedro Jimenez. And for these ones, I tend to, well, I never ask the barman, what is the ABV? Do I add water? Well, I taste it. In this case, let's see. Cheers. It drinks like 40, maybe 42, 43% ABV. Dangerous, I tell you. This is something that's going to kick your ass. Let me just try again. Nice big sip. There's a little bit of warmth. It's a little stingy. Just a hint of that. Just to remind you it's a little bit high ABV. And then that sweetness and sweetness and sweetness and the raisins, that Pedro Jimenez. Oh my word, it is nice. Now, I hate adding water to this one. I'm just going to add maybe, well, I'm going to stick with the scientific approach and put my full teaspoon of water in there. Just to see. And you can see on this one as well, no effect, not cold water. But that sweetness comes out. There's a even more sweeter, a little that dark mahogany type of sweetness. Now, I don't know how do I get to that, but it feels like just that darkness, that dark fruit, that dark red apples, that little bit butterscotch, toffee, caramel, dark chocolate, vanilla. Definitely improves the aromas coming out. On the taste, cheers. Yeah, I think I will have to revisit my idea of adding water. On this one, it really helps it. Don't overwater. Oh my word, I'm going to enjoy myself after this video. And just the last one. Now, people that know me know I'm not a big fan of certain type of peated whiskey. Now, this was a lovely gift from a friend of mine, and I was really, well, I was excited to give it a try. Now, don't put Lefroy 10 in front of me. I hate it. I cannot stand it. I had this big aversion to it. I also, well, I had a big problem with Artback 10 years ago. Now I do love this stuff. There's no sherry in this one. Ex-bourbon cask. 59.7% ABV. 8 years old, so it is a cask strength. It's a youthful whiskey. It's a whiskey that didn't pull a lot from the oak yet. Natural color, of course, non-chill filtered. And on the nose, what I do like about this one, it's not heavily peated. Well, it's not heavily peated for me. And the longer you have the bottle, as you can see the level, this is almost a year ago that I opened it. The volatility of that peated whiskey really goes down. I get that dusty note. I get that ashy note. It's not a big hospital smell. But with that agitation, Ooh, that little shocker that comes through. Definitely is strong on the nose. On the taste, it is nice. It's a light, mellow, savory type of smoke. And then at the end, a hint of that little hospital, a hint of a TCP, but just a hint of it. But that sweetness for me is really nice. I think if I close my eyes, I would think, oh, hopefully that's Pedro Jimenez or a little Oloroso Cherry Cos. It is just lovely, sweet, summery, a little bit of that tartness. There's a little bit of a citrus note coming out, a little bit of an iodine note coming out, but really pleasant. Now, I am going to do the same. I'm going to add just 1 teaspoon. It's not a big glass. You can already see the oils. Maybe you can see it. There's a little bit of a swirling of the oils in the whiskey. I think I might add a little bit more. Now, for me, it doesn't do any great service to this whiskey. That lovely notes that I had just seem to disappear. I still get a high alcohol, but I get a toned down notes. Let me just try it on the taste. On the taste, it's nice. I think it helped the whiskey. That little bit of the different flavors that come out. There's a little bit more sweetness. It elevates a little bit of the vanilla notes. No tannins in this whiskey. The less alcohol, less burn. Just want to make sure. Definitely on the nose it didn't work for me, but on the taste it really brought out some of the nice flavors. Perfect amount of water. Not going to add more, or maybe I should. Just for the sake of argument, I'm going to overwater this one by 2 teaspoons. Wasting whiskey. Well, I hope not. Now that peat is now almost gone. There's just a hint of that peat left. Nice citrus flavors coming out. Nice vanilla flavors coming out. There's a little bit of a strangeness to it. Just want to taste it. And to my surprise, 2 teaspoons of water, even on the small one, was quite pleasant. So that's me, a little bit on a water end. Now I would like to get more information from you. How much water do you add? Make me a little list. Let's start. Do you add water at 40%? Let's go to 46%. How much water in 46%? 48%. How much water? Let's go to the next one. 50%. How much water? And let's go up to 55%. How much water? And let's say maximum 60%. How much water will you add on 25 milliliters? What is the effect that you found? Do you sometimes add water as an experiment yourself, or do you stick to your guns and say, I drink at high level, cask strength, I'm not watering down? Now, one of my subscribers gave me a comment and says, sometimes it's all about peer pressure. And we drink high ABV just to impress somebody, or if you're in a group setting and 2 or 3 people says, oh, what, water, why you want to add water, drink like a man. Well, I can definitely see that, but I can tell you that person secretly at home will add some water. Now, I'm too old to care about other people. I drink the whiskey the way I want to drink it. Nobody's going to tell me any story about me adding water or not adding water. And if I want to add ice, if I want to add ice, I will add ice. If I want to add Coke, Okay, not going to add Coke. But if you want to add Coke to your whiskey, you drink it the way you like. So thank you very much for watching on this fantastic summer day in Belgium. As usual, please remember to like and subscribe. I want to reach at least 2,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Well, we all have to have a goal in life. So thank you very much, and I see you next time. Cheers.